Today we're doing lesson 8.6. We'll be solving multiplication and division equations. So first we're going to look at the division property of equality. If you divide both sides of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides will remain equal. So, we don't divide by zero. So if we start with 2 times 6, and if we were to divide both sides by 2, my 2's right here would do what? What would happen to them? They would cancel out. Don't be afraid to talk just because it's recording. So those would cancel out, and what would happen here? What's 6 divided by 2? What's 12 divided by 2? I just said it. 6, right? And then down here, notice since those 2's canceled out, I have 1 times 6 over 1. 1 times 6 is 6, and 6 equals 6. So that's using our division property of equality. Any questions there? Yeah. Alright, so let's look at the example. So starting with example 1, we have 14D equals 4,200 or 4,200. Now, what does it mean when you have a number next to a variable? So you have a coefficient and you have a variable. What's that mean? What operation is implied? Multiplication. So how do we undo the multiplication? What is the inverse operation of multiplication? Division. So we're doing the same thing we did yesterday as far as we've got to get this variable by itself. So right now it's attached to 14 through multiplication, right? To undo that, we need to divide by 14. So we're just going to draw the division line and put 14 here. And if I do it over there, I need to do it over here as well. So remember that a fraction is a way of showing division. So this is still a way of showing division. Okay? You with me? So what happens to my 14s on the left side? They cancel out, and I'm left with the variable D. And then over here, if you use your calculator or do it by hand, either one, we have 4,200, and we divide by 14. What do we get? So we get that D is 300. Now, if you wanted to check that, all you'd have to do is go back and say 14 times 300, and you'd get 4,200. Do what? It's okay, she's coming back. Any questions on that one? So, if you see that you're multiplying, you have to divide, right? Now, this next one, we're also multiplying. My coefficient this time is 2/3, and I'm multiplying by n. So I'm still going to have to divide, but with fractions, usually it's easier to go ahead and rewrite it like this. So we're going to say 2/3 n divided by 2/3, and on this side we have 1/4, and we're dividing by 2/3. So go ahead and write that down. Okay, so the first thing I do when I'm dividing fractions is keep it, change it, flip it. So we're going to keep 2/3 times n times 3/2. And then over here we're going to keep it, change it, flip it too. So 1/4 times 3/2. I have to move this up a little bit. Okay, so what happens on the left is my 3's cancel out and my 2's cancel out, and all I'm left with is n. It's the only thing that didn't cancel out. And over here, 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Can I simplify? No, so that's as far as I can go. So just to check it, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to replace n with that 3/8. I can do a lot of canceling out or simplifying before you multiply, or you can go ahead and multiply across. What can I divide both 6 and 24 by? By 6 to get 1/4. So did it work? Did 3/8 work for n? It did. So there's your answer. So if you're ever in doubt that your answer is correct, just go back in, plug it in, and work the problem out and see if you get the same thing. If you get something different, something's not right. Any questions? Alright, so now, that was the division property of equality. Now let's look at the multiplication property of equality. So go ahead, I'm going to pause it so you can write that down. Alright, so the multiplication property of equality says that if you multiply both sides of an equation by the same number, the two sides will remain equal. So we have 12 fourths is equal to 3. So we're going to use the multiplication property of equality here. So we're going to multiply each side by 4. So this is showing that I'm multiplying by 4. Here I'm multiplying by 4. So my 4's right here cancel out. So I have 1 times 12 is 12. And on this side, 4 times 3 is 12. So they're still equal. And up here, if we did 12 divided by 4, we'd get 3, right? So this is just good. This all goes back to whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side to keep it balanced. Okay? So all 4 of the ones we've talked about over the past 2 days, the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Whatever you do to the left side of the equation, you have to do to the right side of the equation for it to stay balanced. And then there's our example 3. So in example 3, we have v over 8 is equal to 24.5. So notice that v is part of the fraction here, right? It's not being multiplied times the fraction, it's part of the fraction. So in order to find out what v is, we've got to undo this division that's happening here. So if we multiply by 8, we can cancel those out and leave us with v, right? Those would cancel out, be 1 and 1, and that would leave me with v. So that means that I have to do the same thing over here, though. I have to multiply it by 8 also. So when I take 24.5 and multiply by 8, I get what? What'd you get? 196. So we get 196 in for v. So if I wanted to check that, double check, I'd put 196 in for v, and I'm going to divide by 8. So 196 divided by 8 gives me 24.5. So it worked. So v would be 196. And just to clarify, when you're doing your exit ticket and you're giving your answer, you're telling me what the variable is. Okay? You're not rewriting the problem, just tell me what the variable is.
V or V.
Yeah, if you want to put like v equals in the number, that's okay too.
Okay.
If you just put the number, that's fine, because I think I did it like that also. I tried to think of the different ways you might possibly put it in, but I can't do every possible space. So, all right, so let's go to page 315. So you're done with your notebook. Other than looking at examples, we're going to page 315. And you're welcome to keep your notebook out and open so you've got those examples, especially when you're working on your exit ticket. All right, so page 315, number 1. We have 2.5m is equal to 10. So in order to get m by itself, what will I have to do to each side? I'm going to have to undo that multiplication by using, what's the inverse operation of multiplication? Division. So what am I going to divide each side by? What's beside the m? 2.5. So that means I'm dividing each side by 2.5. Okay, so 2.5 divided by 2.5, that means those cancel out and leave me with the m. And then 10 divided by 2.5 is 4. So we get that m equals 4. And if you have 4 friends and they each have $2.50 and put their money together, they have $10. Okay, so 2.5 times 4 is 10. Any questions on that one? Alright, so look at number 2. What do I need to do to get x by itself here? How am I going to undo the multiplication? Divide by what? 3. So on this side, go ahead and divide by 3 also. So my 3's cancel out and leave me with x. And 210 divided by 3 would be? 70. So if I wanted to go back in and check, 3 times 70 is 210. Make sure you're writing down anything that we write up here in your book. It's not a whole lot to have to write. Alright, number 3. I have to get t by itself. So what am I going to do to each side? Divide by 4. So my 4's cancel out and leave me with t. And 2.8 divided by 4 would be what? 0.7. Notice on this one, we're saying 1/3 times n. So to undo that, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to divide to undo that multiplication. So I'm saying 1/3 n divided by 1/3. And on the other side, I'm saying 15 divided by 1/3. So I'm going to have to keep it, change it, flip it, keep it, change it, flip it. So 1/3 n times 3 over 1. And over here I have 15 times 3 over 1. Alright, so my 3's cancel out. And my 1's cancel out, and I'm left with n. And then 15 times 3 will give me 45. And there's just a 1 on the bottom, so that's still just 45. So I get that n is 45. The kind like this are going to take a little more work. Alright, look at number 5. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to pause the video. Go ahead and you pause it and work number 5, 6, and 7, and then we'll check them because my time's running out. Okay, so here is the process of working number 5. You can check it. When you worked it out, you should have got all the way down to 1/5. Now look at number 6. Number 6, notice that a is part of the fraction. Okay, it's on top of it. So that means that we've got division happening here. A divided by 5. So how do I undo the division? Multiply by what? 5. So do the same thing over here. My 5's cancel out, so I have a by itself on this side, and 5 times 25 gives me 125. Very good. And then last one that I'm doing with you, number 7. Again, notice that the variable is part of the fraction here. So we're going to multiply by 4 and multiply by 4. My 4's cancel out here, leaving me with c. So 4 times 1.3 leaves me with 5.2 for c. Any questions?
No.
Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to work problems 8 through 13. 8 through 13, bring it to me, let me check it, and then you can do your exit ticket.